Today we're going to talk about percents. The biggest thing you need to realize and know is that percent means out of 100. So whenever I say you got a 95% on your quiz, that means you got 95 out of 100 possible points. 95 out of 100. Okay, the same thing works for any percentage. Let's say you got 20%, and that would be 20 out of 100. All right, if you notice, I just take the number that's the percentage, and that becomes the numerator of my fraction. And 100 is my denominator. All right, let's do another one. Let's say 15%. That's going to be 15 out of 100. Right, now, you can see it's very easy to change from a percent to a fraction. All we have to do is give 100 as the denominator. And now you should also notice that I can go from this fraction to a decimal very easily. Remember that in decimals, place value, we have tenths and we have hundredths. So if I have 95 hundredths, that means my decimal is 95, stopping in the hundredths place. Same thing for 20 hundredths, 20 hundredths, and then 15 hundredths. All right, so these are all equal. So this is what we're going to be practicing today. We're going to practice going from percents to fractions, percents to decimals, fractions to decimals, and decimals to fractions, going both ways for all three directions. Okay? So put your notes in front of you. They should look like this. All right, now I want you to go ahead and fill in the three circles. So we have decimals on top, percents in the bottom right, and fractions on the bottom left. All right, we're going to start with changing our percents to fractions. Okay, this one right here, percents to fractions. Just like we said, percent means out of 100. You can even write that right here, out of 100. So we are going to write the percent number over 100, and then we're going to simplify. All right, so an example of that, let's say we have 25%. So I'm going to write 25 over 100, and then I'm going to simplify. Now things you might want to simplify by, you can write these down. We can simplify by 2, 4, 5, 10, maybe 25 or 20. Those are all things that 100 can be divided by, so you should look to see if your numerator can also be divided by those things. Here I see that 25 can be divided by 25, so can 100. 25 divided by 25 is 1, 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 25% simplifies all the way down to 1/4. All right, what about going the other direction? Let's say that we have a fraction and we're making it back into a percent. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to use equivalent fractions to change the denominator to 100, and then write the numerator as the percent. All right, change the denominator to 100, and then the numerator becomes the percent. So what does that mean? Let's say we have the example 3/5. Okay, well, I want my denominator to be 100, so I have to think, what did I do to 5 to get me to 100? Well, I multiplied times 20. So I'm going to do that to the top. 3 times 20 gives me, right, 60. Rewrite that. 3 times 20 gives me 60. So that means this is 60%. It's that simple. So I use equivalent fractions. Okay. See, my fractions are equal, and I change the denominator to 100, and then whatever my numerator becomes is my new percent. All right, let's see. How about going from a percent to a fraction, or excuse me, to a decimal, percent to a decimal? All you have to do is move your decimal 2 places to the left. This is just like you are dividing by 100, right? So let's say we have the percent, 95%. We saw this earlier, right? Well, right now my decimal on 95 is at the end of the 5. So I'm going to move it left 2 places, 1, 2, and now my number is 95 hundredths, all right? And that's the same thing as 95% because percent means out of 100, 95 out of 100, 95 hundredths. That's very easy to change it to a decimal. Now, let's say we have a decimal and we want to make it back into a percent. We're going to move the decimal 2 places right, which is the same thing as multiplying by 100. Okay, so let's say we have 35 hundredths. Well, I take that decimal and I move it 2 places to the right, and it becomes 35%. All right, the last two, going from decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals. We've done this before. So going from a fraction to a decimal, you're going to do numerator divided by denominator, which we call cowboy and horse. Okay, we're just dividing. You know that, you know how to do it. Okay, so if you have the fraction 2/5, well then you're going to divide 2 divided by 5, cowboy and horse. You're going to have to add decimals and zeros. 5 goes into 24 times. So my decimal is 0.4, 4/10. And then going back the other direction, decimals to fractions, you're going to use place value to determine your denominator. And then you need to simplify your fraction. So let's say that we have the decimal 0.32. Well, that's 32 hundredths. 32 hundredths. And then I want to simplify. I know 32 can be divided by 4. And so it's 100. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So I just went from 32 hundredths to 8 over 25. All right, so that's how we go between the 3 forms. Make sure this gets glued into your spiral. Let's check out your worksheet now. Looks like this. All right. So you're going to, for problems 1 through 4, we're going to write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. So percent becoming a fraction, and we are going to simplify. So if you look at your notes, going from percent to fraction, we write the number over 100, and then we simplify. So 43% becomes 43 over 100. Now, 43 can't be divided by 2, or 4, or 5, or 10, and so it probably can't be simplified, so we're going to stop there. All right, number 2, 72%. 72 out of 100. Now I see that 72 is even, so I'm going to divide by 2 on both of them. 72 divided by 2 is 36. 100 divided by 2 is 50. I still see that they're both even, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. Divide by 2, divide by 2, and I get 18 over 25, and that's my stopping point. Okay? Number 3, we have 88%. Well, that's going to be 88 out of 100. I know that 88 can be divided by 4, so I'm going to start there. Divide by 4, divide by 4. It gives me 22 over 25, and that's going to be my answer for that one. And then on number 4, 35% is 35 out of 100, and I'm going to simplify by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 100 divided by 5 is 20, so that's my final answer there. All right, on 5, 6, 7, and 8, we are going to write each percent as a decimal. Now, if you look at your notes, going from percent to decimal, you move the decimal 2 places left. So right now, the decimal on 64% is at the end. Move it backwards 2 spots. 1, 2. New decimal is 0.64, 64 hundredths. All right, number 6. We have 92% becomes 92 hundredths. 73%. Move the decimal back 2 spots. Becomes 73 hundredths. Should be a pattern here. And 33%, move the decimal back 2 spots. You get 33 hundredths. Okay? Now, you need to be careful. Sometimes you'll see something like 2%. Whenever you change this one, you move the decimal back 2 spots. It becomes 2 hundredths. You have to add in this 0. Just be careful there. All right, so now you're going to go on and do the rest of this worksheet on your own. Let me show you one thing real quick. Sorry. Or doesn't mean this. On your worksheet, 1 and 2 you have to shade. Remember, 67% means 67 out of 100, so you're shading 67 of those squares. The next section you have to write the percent as a fraction in simplest form and as a decimal. You're writing 2 things here. So 50% became 1/2 and 0.50. Okay, so 1% would be 1 out of 100, and then move your decimal back 2 spots, 0.01. Okay, so you're writing 2 things in this section, and then solve problem 18. This is due today.